Okay, this is our video demonstration of the VAC HE43 glove box. Take a walk around it first. As you can see, there's two anti-chambers that are heated. So there's heaters inside the anti-chamber. Got one on either side here. As you can see, I'm running them at 150 Celsius using a temperature controller. And here's our limit. That's for over temperature protection. The one thing I want to point out is that the alarm 1 and the alarm 1 on both controllers, the light needs to be lit. Otherwise you don't have the heaters on, button will not stay on. Power on is here, main power, off and on here. Goes through a power up initialization. And as you can see, the heaters are off. To turn them on, you hit the start button. And it'll start controlling. We do have both of these ovens are anti-chambers are the same, so I'm just going to show you how to operate one. We do have a vacuum gauge here and a convectron gauge and a tube, and a convectron gauge tube is being read out right up here. So I pumped it down to somewhere around 2 torr, and the way to pump it is to use the manual ball valve here for vacuum. Right now it's in a closed position, and right there is open. At this point you may see that the vacuum will drop slightly. But typically once you get it to your vacuum level, you can go ahead and close the ball valve. To refill, there's a refill valve over here. Let's see if I can get that. There it is. This is inert gas coming from inside the glove box. So if you want to backfill with the high purity nitrogen or whatever inert gas you're using, you can go ahead and open the refill valve. And just to show you that the vacuum level did change slightly. And then go ahead and open it up again to evacuate it. If you just want to open it up to atmosphere, you can go ahead and open this valve. This just draws in air from the outside into the anti-chamber. So we'll just leave that closed for now. Some other things I want to point out about the temperature controller is, again, the upper one is controlling the temperature, and it does have by pressing the set button here for 5 seconds, you can see you do have an alarm 1. So I have it set at 200. And in order to change that, you go ahead and hit the blue button. I'll send you directions on how to operate the temperature controller. I got it off the internet. So this will explain exactly how to use this. Once you touch the blue button, you can go ahead and decrease or increase your alarm, your high temperature limit. We're just going to keep it at 2 for now. So once you get that, you hit set again. It'll bring you to the temperature. If you want to change the temperature, you just go ahead and hit the blue button once so you can see that the number changes as you go across. If I wanted to bring it down to 50, for instance, you can go ahead and change it there. And then go ahead and hit set. And as you can see, the set value is now changed to 50. So let's go back and change that to 150. Again, hit the blue button. And 1 second. Lower one is just a redundant alarm. There is no set value on this. What it is reading is it's its own, has its own independent thermocouple attached to it, and so it's reading. It's calibrated so they both read the same temperature, but they are two independent thermocouples. Just reading 150 Celsius at the time. There's no set value. It has no control output on it, but it does have the alarm. And again, to see what that alarm's set at, well, we'll go ahead and press and hold set. And you see alarm 1 here set at 200. If I were to drop this down, to say for instance 100, go ahead and hit set. As you can see, we lose the alarm 1 light, at least on the outer over temp limit controller. And you see the heaters are now off, and by hitting start, they will not stay on. So that's just an over temperature protection. And again, both AL1 on the over temp limit and the temperature controller need to be lit in order for the start button to work. So what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and change this back to 200. Press and hold the set. Step over, 200, set. And at this point, we can go ahead and hit start. And you can see the heaters are on. The other thing you can do too is you can switch it over to time, manual time mode. And as you can see, the timer turns on up here. I have it set for 0.1. This is an hour, so it's 1/10 of an hour. And we'll come back in a few minutes and we'll see that what it'll do is it'll automatically shut it off after this time has ran out. The process complete light will be on, and the heater on switch will be off. And so that gives you the ability to run a timed heat. Okay, one other thing I want to point out while we're here is we do have a vacuum line coming in. We're only using one pump on this system. And the other thing to point out here too is I am bringing I'm sampling the moisture inside the box, and I'm bringing it through this line here, which then goes to, this is a house setup here. This is what we typically use to qualify the machine, the glove box, verify that it does reach 1 parts per million. And we have a little diaphragm pump down here is pulling up the gas from the box across the sensor, which is right here, through a flow meter, and it's set at 1.5 liters per minute. So this will tell you what the moisture is inside. And as you can see, this gauge is valid between 0 to 100 parts per million of moisture, and right now we're sitting at 1.0. Again, this is our house unit. If you want to purchase your own, you need to go ahead and put on your own moisture monitoring system. But here what we do is we're actually pulling 1.5 liters per minute out of the box and verifying that it does reach 1.0 parts per million. One other thing I want to point out while we're down here is what I did here is I connected a house pump, vacuum pump, and we're using this pump to pump out both of the antechambers, and it's also being used for the dry box train. The dry box does need a vacuum pump hooked up to it. So what I did is I just keyed in here, and I've got the two lines coming from the antechamber, and also the line that's required for the drivetrain. And the reason you need a vacuum pump for the drivetrain is if you want to reduce pressure. This glove box has a range of plus or minus 5 inches of water. Right now I have the range set slightly positive. And if you want to reduce the pressure in the box, you could go ahead and set it to the right here. As you can see, there's a negative indicator here. And it'll automatically open a vacuum valve, a valve that's opened up to the vacuum manifold, and bring this down to a lower range using the vacuum pump. As you see, it's decreasing. Once it hits the is inside the 2 red arrows there, it'll go ahead and shut off. And it tries to maintain its range, so you can hear the valve clicking on and off. You also have the ability to use your, there's a foot switch here, left to lower and right to increase. Again, it'll allow you to increase it, but eventually it's going to want to go back to where the range is set. Okay, while we're here, I just want to point out a few other things. Here's your vacuum pump pressure manifold gauge. This is your on-off for your circulator, which circulates, it's kind of like a schematic here. It'll circulate through the box, come back through the purifier, and then back and return back to the circulator and box. Purifier is going to remove your excess water vapor and oxygen. If you want to shut the circulator off, you go ahead and hit this button here. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's winding down. There's a blower right inside here. It's circulating. It's a little hard to see, but at this point, if you want to switch over to do a regeneration, you can go ahead and hit this switch here. And what that's going to do is there's 2 pneumatically controlled valves here sitting right on top of the purifier, and they're going to close when I hit the regen. You can see they turn 45 degrees. In order to start a regeneration, you want to make sure you have your forming gas connected and set to the right flow, which you set down here. So for nitrogen, you'd want to set it to 60 on the gauge. And then you go ahead and just turn this valve to S. It'll start. It takes about 12 hours to go through a heat and purge and evacuation and cool down process. This is all explained in the manual. When it does start, you'll see that the regen light, red light, will turn on. But we're going to go ahead and just switch right back to circulate and turn our circulation and the blower on. Two other things to point out is here. This is our nitrogen supply. You'll have to bring in your own line, your own tank, and your own regulator. I typically have it set at 90 psi on a 3/8 inch line. And the other thing is we're using a chiller here, our house chiller. It's a little noisy, so I shut it down for now. But let me turn that on. I have it set to 12 degrees Celsius, and what this does is it's going to bring water in and out of our let me take this off. What happens is you're going to pick up some heat with the circulator. It's going to go through this heat exchanger here, and it'll cool it down so that the inert gas coming out of the circulator will go through the heat exchanger and back into the box, and that just keeps the temperature of the box, internal temperature of the box, at I believe it was 20 degrees above what your cooling temperature is, and that's Fahrenheit. So by me setting the chiller to 12, it'll keep the internal temperature somewhere around 72 degrees Fahrenheit. I just want to take this back cover off and want to point out a few things. Oh, while we're here, there's a line, each one. This is a 208 single phase, 20 amp plug for each one of your anti-chambers. And I have it connected down here. And I bring that up to our wall, Alright, losing control of this. Alright, so each one of the anti-chambers requires a 208 20 amp circuit. Has its own individual plug. The system alone also requires 208. Has its own plug. It also has a 110 power supply in there. 110 power cord coming out of there. 20 amps on that. There's a outlet down here where you can plug in your I'll follow this out. This is for your lights and an outlet that's up on the top. And then I also have 110 for your indicators here, for your lights to indicate whether the doors are open or closed. You need 110 volts for that too. Also, the 110 is ran in independently for your circulator, the 110 circulator. There is an outlet out here for the pump. If you do have a 230 volt pump or 208 volt pump, you can plug it in here where it says vacuum pump. If it's 110 volts, you can go ahead and plug it in down here in the outlet. Your purifier is here. A little hard to see. The media has been replaced in here and regenerated one time. You see down in there is where your blower is, your circulator, and then here's your heat exchanger. You do have a 110 volt circuit here with two outlets inside the box. You can plug that in independently or go ahead and plug it into your outlets here. So here's the plug for that. Again, we're controlling at 150 degrees on this chamber. Works identical to the other one. Vacuum inline, refill. You want to vent the atmosphere. You have the two gauges. One that reads down to 30 inches of mercury, and the other here is a convection gauge too. And again, you got your gauge, convection gauge. You have the timer. Timer here. All the standard control. You want to switch over to man time to see which one's on. And then you have your temperature controller and your over temperature limit set up the same way. I believe you can bring this up to 200. The temperature controller's maximum temperature is set at 200 Celsius. And just a few more things to point out. This black line coming in will plug in to the outlet, the 110 outlet. That's being used for your light up top. There's a switch to turn the lights on and off. And you can see the lights, lights will turn on and off. And this is a 110 outlet. As long as the cord is plugged in, there's 110 on this outlet. And finally, this box down here, this gray wire, also gets plugged in into 110 volts. This is used for you got switches on your door panels. And I'll just go ahead and open these up slightly. And what that does is it'll let you know that by the red light internally there, that the outside door is open. That way you don't mistakenly open the inside. Same on both. And then there's also switches internally here to let you know that the inside door is open. And let me just pop these just a little bit. And we'll see that those lights are working. There you can see the red light here. It's letting you know the inside door is open. So that's been checked out. They all work. Let's close these down. See that the indicators went out, and the same here. So again, the moisture monitor is not included. The vacuum pump is not included. You can go ahead and use one vacuum pump for the drivetrain, maybe something a little bit smaller, and use one for each one of the antechambers if you'd like to. For demonstration purposes, I just hooked them all up to one. The regulator and cylinder you need to provide, and a chiller, chilled water you'll need to provide. Let's just go through some of those connections. You're in and out for your water. I have about 1/4 inch swage lock fittings there. You do have a pressure sense line here that will be disconnected when I send it, and that'll run to your photohelic inside to let you know what the pressure inside the box is. This is your inert gas in coming from the tank. When you do a regen, you want to go ahead and run a 1/4 inch swage lock line in using your forming gas, and it needs to have a purge, so as you're regenning, it's going to purge through the purifier and come on out with nitrogen and water vapor. So you want to exhaust that. And then you do have a compressed air line in. I believe I have it set at 60 psi, and that's basically only used to open and close these ball valves here. Sit above your purifier. So what I'll do now is, we're still timing down here. Let's see if the other one wants there. Alright, so this is what it'll look like once your time process is ended. You can see the heaters have shut off. They won't turn on. The only way to get out of this would be to go ahead and hit, take it out of time mode, hit stop. And then you can go ahead and hit start again. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to refill both of these antechambers and open the door so we can take a look at the inside of the antechamber. So what we need to do here is we'll close our vacuum valve. Bring that to close. And we'll refill with our refill valve. Now this is bringing the gas from the box in. And here you can watch your gauge go up, and you can also see that your Vectron gauge is going up. So once that reaches atmosphere, we'll go ahead and open the box. Open the antechamber. Now we can open the inside doors first. Typically that's just not going to touch anything because it's still at very high temperature, 150 degrees. So using a foot switch, I'm adding a little pressure to the box. But again, the photohelic will keep it within the range that you have it set at. Okay, let's come over here, and what we'll do is we'll close this refill valve. So I close it by putting it in a horizontal position. So we can come inside here and go ahead and open the. So you can see there's a few shelves in there. Again, they're hot, they're at 150 C, so I'm not going to touch them. But at this point you can slide your work in. There's 1, 2, 3 shelves available. You can slide them in. You just want to make sure it's cool. And then you can go ahead and close it up. And then let's look at it from the other side. Now again, these are both antechambers are identical. We'll go ahead and open it from this side. And take a look inside. You see the heater elements wrap around the this structure that holds the 3 shelves. And then as you see in there, this thermocouple is actually attached to the frame here. So go ahead and close that up. We'll do the same for this side here. We'll go ahead and let it refill. Oh, here you can see that the process is timed out, so the heaters have been turned on. Again, we're refilling using the refill valve. That's on H2, you can run up that. Okay, make sure that refill valve is closed. Go ahead and open the back door. Again, it's identical to the other one. Got your 3 shelves. And I'll go ahead and open it from the inside. Alright. Alright, that's our demonstration of the back HE43 glove box with 2 heated anti-chambers.